Hey guys, it's Angie and Heather again. This week we decided to talk about something that maybe isn't so great to talk about, but it's really important. And when I'm doing applications, it's a part of what I'm asking you to. And so it's important to kind of go over that, the icky kind of stuff.
Yuck.
Yeah, the yuck. There is some things like that intended parents really want to know that what are you open to, what aren't you open to when it comes to, I'm pregnant with 4 babies. It doesn't happen all that often. Don't freak out. Very, very rarely do we see any multiple pregnancies like that, but it can happen. It's IVF. You could put 2 embryos in, it could split. And so we need to talk about what you would do in that case. Or let's just say you transferred a baby and it ends up having, a life-threatening disorder where it's going to die when it's born, or it has Down syndrome. And they live somewhere, where Down syndrome is not, as great, or they're 50 plus and, they're going to die in 20, 40 years, whatever.
I think at the end of the day, regardless of what the situation is, they want to know that as a surrogate, you're going to support their wishes to build the family that they intend to build, right? And I think that it's important as a surrogate to know where your limitations are and how you feel up front, so that there's no surprises, because as a part of any surrogacy, there will be some testing done. Like, obviously, first of all, we can talk about, we've got selective reduction on the list, so many people transfer more than 1 embryo.
I've done 4.
I'm gonna
depends
on egg quality, right? Like if they're lower quality eggs, they'll be a little bit more aggressive with the cycle, and that's IVF doctors are very strictly regulated to make sure that they are doing very safe stuff. You hear about things like in the States with Octomom. God, like that's not a thing. That's not a thing here, and they were like. Like, you would never see something like that here, but you will sometimes see triplets.
It happens,
it has happened. Like, it's like, oh my God, like all 3 took, right? Yeah. But what, both the fertility clinic wants to know and what the intended parents want to know is if 3 took, would you be willing to reduce down to twins? It's never down to 1 because twins is the safest outcome. Yeah. When you carry triplets, the odds are that all 3 will have a reduced quality of life if they even make it to gestation, right? So there's no... It's not always, it's not a good story,
but it's a risk, right? And they want to make sure that you're safe, that, you're not on bed rest from 15 weeks on, and that those babies are going to be safe. So that's where the selective reproduction comes in, that the intended parents want to know, what are your feelings on it? And we're not telling you that you have to selectively reduce. That's absolutely not, because we're going to match you based on that. So if it's not something that you want to do or you're comfortable with, that's okay. I want to know if you're not comfortable with it, but I want you to understand why that's a thing. So it's a thing so that, the quality of your life, the quality of the baby's life, things like that are not jeopardized. But if you're not okay with reducing, that's fine. We'll make it work. We'll find you intended parents. We'll do a single embryo transfer, or have intended parents who are like, no, we would never reduce either. We want, if we are, God blesses us with, or whoever blesses us with 4 babies at one time, 3 babies at one time, we're going to take it. We're going to love it. And that's okay too. And if that's what you want, we're going to support that too. So,
and I think just having those open conversations with the intended parents and with the clinic too, that, if selective reduction isn't something that you want to consider, which is totally fine. Everybody has their own beliefs and background. How many embryos you're willing to transfer. And just capping that so that you don't end up in this situation where there can be compromised quality of life for either you or the babies. So the next thing that we want to talk about was some of the testing that could happen. So I know myself, when I carried my first child, I was fairly young, and it was a while ago. It was almost 11 years ago now. So I don't think that it was as available, and I declined a lot of stuff that was like, but obviously with the surrogacy, and especially like with donor eggs, or if an IM is older, that sort of thing, they want to do some testing. So the first thing that they do is the NT testing, and usually it's around 15 weeks, 12 and 15. I think they do a blood draw first, and then they do an ultrasound like 2 weeks later.
Don't
quote us on this. But the timing is critical. And in fact, on my midwife application, it was like, have you been explained this? Because you might not get into the midwife before that. And because the timing is actually pretty critical on it. Anyways, the clinic goes over all of it with you.
Pretty amazing test, though.
Not invasive at all. No. It's amazing.
Ultrasound and blood work.
Ultrasound and blood work. And that basically screens you to what your percentage of having further issues is. So if the percentage is low enough, and the last time I did it was like a fraction of a billionth of a percent or something like that, you don't have to do an amnio. So very, very rarely, because that's what a lot of people think with this type of testing is, you're going to put the big needle in and do an amnio. so rarely that I would get to that
But
point.
even an amnio is so, like, it's funny because we've only had 2 people have it done in the 7 years with CFC and amnio because the NT came back bad or the end tendon was older. And it's really important, obviously, in that case, if the genetic testing wasn't done on the embryos, to have those steps done. It's only happened twice. And both people that have had it done have, like, it wasn't a big deal. Like, it's this tiny needle. They put it in. They take a little bit of amniotic fluid out. It feels a little crampy. That's kind of about it. But we're seeing another test, which I didn't write down here, called the Harmony test.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know a ton about the Harmony test, but it's a blood draw.
Yeah.
And it's doing a lot of what the amnio does. So that's an interesting one. And we're seeing it, but it's not OHIP covered or Canadian government covered yet.
Depends on your IPs and your clinic.
And it's expensive. It's very expensive. So, but those are the kind of the first initial testing kind of thing.
Yeah.
And those are the tests you're going to see before termination's even brought up too.
Yeah.
Because termination is a thing. It's a thing that you're going to see in your own pregnancies. Like if the doctor came to you and said, okay, I'm really sorry your baby has XYZ and your baby's not going to have a quality of life, or it's going to die within moments of birth, because I mean these horrible things happen sometimes. Those are the tests you're going to see before you would even hear those words. And termination can be a thing. We're lucky to have not dealt with that yet. At termination, and I mean I'm sure we'll come across that bridge sometime because it happens in life, right? And it's just important to know, where do you stand on that? Because I want to match you with somebody who's going to stand on the same ground as you. If you don't believe in termination, if you are super strong on termination, whatever that is, or if you just don't care, whatever.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say that you don't care. Like for me, personally, like I'm very much pro-choice, and for me being a surrogate, I would never want to take that choice away from the baby's parents, right? And like I came to terms with that and the fact that I was okay with whatever choice they made. So it's not that you don't care. It's just that you are realizing that your role as a surrogate isn't to make that type of a decision, right? Yeah. So,
but we have intended parents who, feel really passionate about, not terminating. And we find them surrogates that feel the same way because, everybody has their own choice and we want to support you in those choices as well, right? So, And I mean, like we said, this is the icky kind of stuff to talk about, but it's the really important stuff to talk about because you're going to be asked these in your application and you need to know how you feel about it.
Too,
and your counseling, counselor will go over very thoroughly with, how do you feel about this? And as long as you and your IPs are on the same page, that's all that matters, that's the big end all and be all.
Yeah, and just realize your choices will be respected at the end of the day. Like legally, it is your decision to make, but that's why it's so important that you consider it prior to contract stage. Yeah. So that everybody knows where everybody stands. Yeah. So there's no surprises or anything like that. And I think too, the other thing is realizing that depending on your stance on this stuff, know that CFC loves and respects your decision. but it may take a little bit longer to get matched. Right? Yeah.
And if you don't believe in termination, that's okay. It's sometimes the match I've seen it happen really, really quickly because there's intended parents that we get that would never happen. And then sometimes you sit for a week or 2 or 4 weeks, but don't waver on your feelings. If you have passionate feelings, don't waver on them. Yeah. Stay who you are. I'm not going to talk you into something, obviously. Like you want to stay with what you believe in and, keep those values high priority, whatever it is you believe in. So, yeah. All right, guys. Fun, not so fun talk, but yeah.
Come up with some more fun questions.
Yeah, more fun questions would be great. Okay. So any questions you have, we're going to, Twitter it out to me, and I'm going to say it right for sure. It's at CFC, Angie CFC. I did it. I did it. All right, guys. We will talk to you soon. Cheers.